everybody in Active in Redbourne. I'm Nicola, teaching the yin tonight. We're going to be focusing on the lung and the large intestine meridians. So tonight we just need you to have a block if possible. I know not everyone is going to have a block. So blocks are about 3-4 inches high. So if you get two fairly substantial books, that will be enough. So if you need to go and get them, this is for the final pose, but just so you've got them handy. Or if you've got a firm cushion or bolster, you may be able to use that as well. And also we need a blanket possibly, and a cushion if you like, before we start. So as I said, we're going to be, the poses tonight are going to be stimulating the lung and the large intestine meridians. These have the element of metal, although they are very physically far apart in our body, they are connected in the fact that the lung and the large intestine are dealing with drawing nutrients into our body and also expelling them. So that's why the two pair together. So as we're dealing with the lungs, I'm going to start with some yogic breath, which is a 3-part breath. Just to stimulate our diaphragmatic breathing, which can also help reduce the cortisol hormone and help the parasympathetic nervous system, as with the vagus nerve running next to our vocal cords. And the cortisol is a stress hormone, and we're trying to lower it by doing these deep diaphragmatic breathing. So find a comfortable position. That can be cross-legged or kneeling or sitting with your feet out, whatever feels comfortable. And then just make sure that you're sitting up tall, but you feel relaxed in your shoulders, they're not hunched up. And then we're going to take a nice long deep breath and just place your fingers over your tummy. And as you inhale, let your fingertips touch. Feel your belly coming out, and your fingertips hopefully will come apart a little bit. And as you exhale, you will find that your tummy releases and the fingertips will touch. And then inhale again, really deep down into your tummy, and just notice your fingertips expanding away. And then exhale, let your fingertips come back to the center. One more time, just really deep, long inhale. And exhale. And we're going to do that again, but we're going to bring the breath up into the ribs. So inhale that nice long breath into your tummy, feel your tummy expand with the diaphragm. And then as you continue to breathe, bring the breath up to your ribs, and inhale and expand outwards, feeling the pressure into your hands. And exhale, let your ribs release, your tummy release. And then inhale again into your tummy, and then into your ribs, feel that expanse across your chest. And then exhale, release. One more time. Inhale nice and deeply into your tummy, into your ribs, so your breath's going sideways. And exhale. And now just bring your fingers to your collarbone, and we're going to inhale deeply into our tummy, into our ribs, and try imagine you're bringing the breath all the way up to the top of your lungs, to the collarbone. And then exhale, gently release. We're going to do that 2 more times. Maybe close your eyes if you want to. Inhale nice and deep, draw all the way into your tummy, feel your tummy expanding, and into your ribs, feel your ribs widening, and then feel the breath at the top of your collarbone. And then exhale, feel that lovely gentle release. And then inhale again into your tummy, into your ribs as they widen, up into your collarbone. And maybe pause at the top of the breath here if you want to. And then gently just release. And open your eyes if you've got your eyes closed. And just notice how you feel with that deep diaphragmatic breathing, hopefully helping us to feel a little bit calmer, but also enabling us to use the whole of our lung capacity and feeling that lovely expanse that we create within our body when we can use all the space in our lungs. So we're going to come to our first pose, which is butterfly pose. And this is stimulating the lung and large intestine, which run through the front of our body. So you've got choices in butterfly. You can just sit without a blanket if you know that you're not slouching back, if you've got a pelvic tilt. But if you need if you need a blanket, you can just sit on a blanket, which helps just tilt the pelvis forward. And then we're not having our feet close together like we would in a hatha yoga class. We're coming into a comfortable position with our feet. So it's a long-legged butterfly. So find that initial place for you. And we're trying to find a little stretch on the adductor muscles as well, the inner thighs. And then you just gently fold over. Now if you can't come very far, that's fine. You can use a cushion if you want to rest over. Or you can bring a cushion to your feet and rest on your feet. I'm just going to get the timer going. And as we've been doing this a few weeks, all the poses will be 3 minutes tonight. But if you feel that it's too long for you, please come out. So Yin's all about learning how our body responds, and if we're feeling uncomfortable in a pose and really struggling with it, well then it's best to try not to continue. But saying that, there are the 3 tattvas of Yin Yoga. Tattva is a Sanskrit word which means the principle of the thing. So the first idea when you come into any yin pose is to find that edge, that initial stretch, and then just go with the flow. Just find where you feel comfortable and notice the sensations. And the sensations may be quite strong depending on everybody's body type. So just become aware whether that's something you can cope with for the 3 minutes that we stay in the pose. If it's too strong, the sensations, well then I suggest you back off a little bit. So once you've found your edge of the pose, you then resolve to be still. And that also means you're resolving to be still with your mind as well. So this is mindfulness training in Yin a lot of the time. Again, we have some strong sensations going through our bodies in holding these poses. So we have to compensate with our mind and assure ourselves that it's safe. And our mind might be saying to us, I don't like this, I want to get out. But know that with gentle breathing, that you can stay in the pose as long as it's not painful. It must never ever be painful. And then the third tattva, the third principle of Yin is time. So we need time to sit in the pose so that we can get down to the deep connective tissue in our fascia, which will help with our flexibility. But we need to try and relax our muscles around the sensations. So the way of checking that you're keeping your muscles relaxed is to be aware of your breath, to have a nice steady flow of your breath. And if your breath becomes laboured at all throughout the practice, well then you're probably too deep into the pose. So at the end of the 3 minutes, so when you're ready, just before we come up, take a nice long breath into your tummy, which may feel quite difficult as we're compressing over at the moment. And then exhale, release And then very slowly, out of all yin poses, you come slowly up. As often you can feel quite achy when you've been in these poses for a while. So we maybe remove your blanket if you're sitting on a blanket and just stretch your legs forward. And you can either stay still here or take any movement. I sometimes like to draw my shoulder blades away and then come up and stretch all the way through into upward tabletop. But if you don't feel like doing that, that's not what your body needs. You don't have to do it, it's just a suggestion. Sometimes we like to just be still and sit with the sensations, which is known as the rebound. So we're going to come into our next pose. So if you come onto all fours. Now if you know you've got a few, any problems with your knees, if they're feeling a bit stiff, you could put a blanket as padding for your knees if you want to. And some people have problems with their ankles, so again you could roll up your blanket and place it underneath your ankles if that's a problem for you. So I'm just giving you some ideas. So come to all fours, and we're coming to something called quarter dog. So just make sure that your hips are in line with your knees, and then we're going to send our left hand forward, come down onto our right forearm and rest our head onto our forearm to start the clock. Now if that's too hard for you, if you can't get all the way down, know that you can use a bolster to rest on. So use whatever props you've got to help you in the pose. The great thing about Yinism is no perfect posture. So here we're activating the lung and the large intestine because we're compressing through the front side of our body, which is where these meridians run. But we're also getting a hip stretch here, but we're mainly trying to focus on that stretch across our shoulders, so you should be feeling a nice tugging in that left arm, that left shoulder. So that's what you're looking for here. And then feeling a sinking in your upper back to increase that stretch. And then just try and soften everywhere else around this stretch. And while you're here, with your left hand, if you press firmly into the fingers, you can activate pressure points of the other meridians. So that the thumb, let's have to check, the thumb is connected to the lung meridian. So if you press into your thumb, you're activating your lung meridian. The first finger is the large intestine. The middle finger is your pericardium. The ring finger is the triple heater, which I think I explained last week in 3 parts of our body, which we don't have an organ of the triple heater. And the little finger is the heart and the small intestine. So if you press firmly into your fingers, you're getting a bonus here by activating and stimulating the pressure points of these other meridians, which end or begin in our fingers. But if that feels too much for you, to want to relax those fingers, well then do that. Because we're mainly focusing on that shoulder stretch, that upper back sensation. And just check in with your breath. Be aware of how every breath's flowing. And maybe occasionally go back to those deep 3-part breath that we did at the beginning. Maybe try and do that once or twice during the pose. If you choose to. If you don't want to, again, this is your practice. So that's the 3 minutes up. We're going to go straight to the opposite side rather than having a rebound. So just maybe come up to all fours. If you feel like you want a cat-cow stretch, have that. And then we're going to come over to the other side. So bring your left forearm out and your right arm straight in front of you. I'm just going to set the timer again. And then relax forward into that stretch. And I find with settling in, I find that initial pose, and then sometimes I want to walk my fingers a little bit further away to get a deep stretch in my shoulder. And I also find that the longer I'm in this pose, I feel like I can sink my upper back into the mat a little bit more. But that's me, that's what I can do with my body. And really it's for you to discover what shape you can make with your own body. Just as long as you know that here our main target area is across our shoulders and down the arm, which is where the lung and the large intestine meridians run. That's what we're trying to activate. But all these poses are activating other meridian lines too. But I'm choosing to focus on these two tonight as it gets a bit confusing. So obviously our lungs and large intestine are really important, as all the meridians are. But the lungs enable us to breathe in oxygen, and that oxygen then gets absorbed into our blood, and then we expel the unwanted CO2, carbon dioxide. And our large intestine's working in a similar way. It's absorbing all the nutrients that we need that the small intestine hasn't dealt with. And then all the waste products get expelled. So the lung meridian is seen as the yin meridian and the large intestine seen as the yang. If you feel you want a deeper stretch, you can play with walking your fingers a little bit further away. And if you're quite happy where you are, just stay there. And just pay attention to where you're feeling that stretch. So we're at the end of our 3 minutes. So take that nice, long, deep breath into your tummy. And exhale. And gently walk yourself up to all fours. And maybe take a cat-cow. And then we'll take a rebound before we come into the next pose. So lie on your tummy, not on your tummy, on your back, and have your legs slightly apart and your hands away from your body, palms facing up. And then just use this few moments to notice any sensations. You may feel heat across your shoulders or in your upper arm. You may be feeling sensations in your hip. Or you may be feeling it completely in a different area. Just bathe in these sensations and enjoy whatever sensations coming up for you. Tuning in to how your body's responding to these poses. And when you're ready, gently maybe roll over to the side and push yourself up. And stay with your feet flat out in front of you, and we're going to come into caterpillar, also known as a forward fold. And again, if you know that your pelvis tilts back, it's good to sit on a blanket. And even if your pelvis doesn't tilt back, it's really helpful to help push your hips forward and help you bend from your hips as you come forward. It helps get that maybe even a millimetre more in your forward fold will help. So maybe just prop yourself up a little bit and make it like a wedge, so that you're not sat on top of it, you're sat on the corner of it, so it's wedging you up, if that makes sense. So then again, you just gently fold over. Now we're all going to have different flexibilities of our spine here, so if you can come all the way down, that's great, stay there. If that's just no go at all, you can bring a cushion or whatever you've got and just fold over that. So it doesn't matter, we're not really trying to activate the top of our spine, we're trying to get our hamstrings here and our glutes. But also tonight, as this is activating the lung, because this is a forward fold, we're compressing the front of our body, activating these meridian lines. So we're trying to move the chi, which is also the prana in Indian, in yoga, and also we would probably call it a life force or energy. And by moving the chi, we're trying to create a healthy, energetic system flowing through our bodies, keeping our organs healthy, keeping them supplied with a good amount of energy. And there are 6 pairs of meridian lines, and they all work within a 24-hour clock. And every 2 hours, one pair is more dominant than the other, which is believed in the traditional Chinese medicine. Well, we don't have any equivalent in the Western world. But by doing these practices, we can notice the energy within us. But apart from traditional Chinese medicine, if you're really not interested in that part of it, this is really good for our bone health. We're compressing and stressing our joints, which sounds quite scary, but it's a good thing to do because we're safely doing it. And we're sending messages to the brain by spending this amount of time in the pose. And the brain will send messages back to the area and send fibroblasts, which are bone building cells, to help strengthen our bones, which is especially important as we get older, as we lose the bone density and we can get fragile bones. So when you're ready, take a nice long inhale and feel how different it feels in your tummy as you're breathing when you're folding forward, just observing. And then exhale, release, and then slowly walk yourself back up to sitting, and then just lie straight down again. And that can feel quite tricky to begin with when you've been going in a full forward bend. So if you feel you want to bend your knees, and maybe have a little rock on your spine. Or maybe tilt your hips up and down, whatever you feel you need to just release that back from that full forward bend. And don't ever be concerned if you feel like you're stuck in a pose in yin. We sometimes do feel that way because we've been compressing and stressing the area so much. But it does go back to normal, maybe not immediately, but this is what we're aiming to do. So just pay attention to the sensations, which for me I often find are quite strong when I've been doing forward folds. So we've already come towards our last pose already. I can't believe that. 30 minutes isn't very long for a yin class. Often, when I run my classes, when everything's back open, I normally often do a 2-hour class. So maybe one day you'll be able to join me with that. So the last pose is, if possible, if you've got a block, that would be fantastic. And we're going to put it where your bra strap would go, or in the middle of your back, so it's there. If you don't have a block, you can use two books of a certain, decent height, or you could use a cushion. So this is basically a supported supine back bend, and we're trying to open up the thoracic area. So just find that area underneath your back, and then just see if you can just lie back and let your head release to the floor. If that feels too deep a stretch for you, bring a cushion or a blanket a little bit lower than that block to support your head initially. And then if you can, bring your arms above you and let them come onto the floor behind you. Now for some of you, you may be quite tight in your shoulders, and again that might not happen. So if it's not, you can keep your arms by the side, or again you can use a blanket or a cushion just to rest your arms on if they're not quite reaching the floor. And the reason we're trying to have the arms above our head is this is where the lung meridian runs through the shoulders along the underside of our arm. We're trying to activate here. So I just need to set the clock going. So I think this is a really lovely pose. You can really feel the stretch in that thoracic spine. And I'd say if ever you're feeling a bit achy, or maybe lacking energy, to come in this position really, to me, feels revitalising, because you feel it can really expand into your chest as you breathe. And then feel that release in your lungs. So the expansion of the lungs is slightly easier than the exhale. So just try and take some nice, slow, deep breaths here. Noticing the flow of your breath and the expansion in that thoracic area of your back, into your lungs, into your ribs, and the softness as you exhale. And then before we come out of this pose, we're going to change our arm position. So bring your arms by the side and then see if you can hug your shoulders. And this is activating the large intestine. If you can, for those that know, and I'll just come up so you can see, you can bring your hands into eagle, which is where you have your left or your right underneath your elbow and clasp your hands. But if that's not accessible to you, just hug your shoulders. So come in to find a restful place here. And again, notice the sensations, if I can say it properly, running across your shoulders and down your hands, along your arms even. And I'm just going to be quiet for these last 2 minutes, just for you to really settle in and notice how your body's feeling. And know that if it becomes too uncomfortable, please come out. And every day we take about 23,000 breaths. So it's good to have a healthy lung system. So when you're ready, release your hands. And then you can either stay here for the last minute or so in your Savasana if you're enjoying having that block underneath your thoracic spine. Or if you want to release it, maybe just roll over to the side. Remove the blocks or the books, whatever you have. And then just lie flat on your spine. And enjoy this last few minutes of the sensations going around your body. See if you feel anything in your tips of your toes or the tips of your fingers. Maybe you feel warmth in the palm of your hand. Maybe you can feel something in your tummy where we've been compressing in our forward folds. And how about your back, your shoulders, your arms? Just enjoy whatever sensations are there for you. And if you're really not feeling any, well then just enjoy being able to just lie still for a few more moments. So when you're ready, maybe move your fingers and your toes, ankle circles and wrist circles if you choose to. Maybe take a full stretch as you inhale all the way down to your tummy. And exhale, just soften and roll over to the side. and push yourself up, back into sitting. And then just observe how you're feeling after your yin practice tonight. Focusing on your lungs and your large intestine. Hope you've enjoyed the practice. If you do, please give me a like, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Namaste.